They were scared of you. They're scared of us. I was contemplating today when I was watching a clip of Black Panther, and I was reflecting on how that character and how Chadwick Boseman portrayed him so noble with such dignity and ferocity and passion and regalness, and for what he stood for. And I don't agree with all the you know the spiritual stuff behind that, because they worship cats, in that in that realm. But him being royalty and being of such stature and character, coming from a place that's so advanced that everybody around it is centuries behind, and they were black, and they were in Africa with no help, and they never been colonized. They represent empowerment to a certain degree, but they were fake. So what's so crazy, we were shown something that was completely made up by a white man. But history, the way it's taught, has ignored the real historical figures that this man could have been based off of. Isn't that crazy? We ignored the real people, but we elevate what was fake. And yeah, I loved it. I appreciate the stuff. I appreciate the sentiments and everything, but it was fake. You feeding me sugar when I actually need protein. I'm starving and you're giving me a lollipop when there's a buffet right behind me. That was for somebody. They had to erase Mansa Musa, the richest man ever, worth billions, trillions, whatever. He gave out so much gold in his travels. He disrupted the entire economy in at least northern Africa, let alone probably the whole continent. He was that rich. They don't tell you, and had to erase Shaka Zulu from the mainstream. The man who came from nothing and was bastardized, became a king in South Africa, took all of it over, united all these tribes. Even though he was brutal, this is what they couldn't stand. The British, at the height of their power, with guns and cannons and a full Navy support, could not step foot in Africa, in Southern Africa, could not step foot in Zululand. Look it up. On some real, you may not speak real stuff, like what they did in the first movie. They didn't let that dude speak. That was an outside. That's what Shaka Zulu did in real time in the 1800s. They're not going to give you that. They're not going to give you, and they're going to erase Hannibal Barca of Carthage. And they try to paint him as somebody that looked more Mediterranean, like modern Mediterranean now. But this dude was at least looked like me. It was darker. He was from Northern Africa, and his daddy and his granddaddy was described as African and dark. This man was a tactical genius to the point he almost conquered Rome. The Roman Empire, one of the most powerful empires in human history, and he almost conquered it. He was to the capital gates. His stuff is still studied till this day. But he had to be erased. They're not going to tell you about the Moors who took Europe out of the Dark Ages. And the Moors literally is Spanish for black. They weren't just depictions of light-skinned people with Arabian feet. They were dark. They had African features, and they were made of many different ethnicities. They brought aqueducts, irrigation system, libraries, colleges to Europe when all the European cultures was in the Dark Ages. That's half of my ancestry, so I don't want to hear none of that racist bullcrap. I'm half white, and I honor that. But we just gonna keep it real. Nobody talks about that. And then from the Moors, Europe goes to the Renaissance, and they shaped the whole world from Renaissance. Nobody talk about that. They had to erase Malcolm X bringing the United States and the UN to trial, or at least the United States to trial for crimes against humanity. After he wasn't racist anymore to white people, after his trip to Mecca, and he almost did it, but he was set up. Look it up, and that's where he passed away. They had to erase Marcus Garvey of uniting all these black people, taking them to Liberia. But he didn't make it. He didn't make it a long life. And they're making Liberia pay for it right now. They didn't tell you about my man who led a revolution in Haiti, who was a black man. I forget his name, and it was hard to pronounce for me anyway. They don't talk about that. And Haiti is the poorest. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's not on accident. In the Haitian Revolution, they became fully liberated from a black man leading it. They had to erase. They had to erase Fred Hammond, who's a 20-year-old who united so many different groups that the FBI had to start COINTELPRO to take out civil rights and just social movements. They had to do it. They were so scared of him, they had to drug him from a spy on the inside of the Black Panther organization, and they did a full deadly police raid while he was sleeping next to his woman that was pregnant. So all this goes to say is, for the people who I'm talking to right now, they were so scared of you, they had to erase your name. They were so afraid of what you could be. They couldn't let you know what you would be able to become. Because if I take away the model and the limits, right, you'll always be what I put in front of you. So if I take away the truth, I can put whatever in front of your face and you'll become that. And if all you see is negative, just know that they had to erase the positive. So I just got to say to my people, they were so scared of us that they couldn't let us know what we could be. They had to erase the names. They had to put psyops in front of us. And I really don't want to hear none of this racist stuff. I'm being racist to white people, whatever. Half white. I talk about black people's crazy stuff all the time too. White, whoever can get it. Racism can get it. It's not just who and who. This is just about racism in general, not towards a particular people. But this is what it is. So don't fall for the trap. Don't fall for the candy when they got a whole buffet behind you. Go to the buffet.